Okay, so today I've got for you two content creators and one lawyer explaining why they believe Michael Jackson was innocent.
I wanted to take a second to show you some actual evidence, right? And I want you to ask yourself,
I got tagged in that video like a lot, and a lot of people want me to address like the things that were found during the Neverland raid. So, hi, I'm a Michael Jackson historian. Let's talk about all the things that were confiscated from the Neverland raid. So, I just want to start off by saying that this guy is not like exposing the true story here. I mean, this is a list of material that has been publicly available for years. He also clearly does not know like what he's referring to. He's just reading the list. I actually do know what this material is. So, first off, Boys Will Be Boys, containing photographs of boys under the age of 14, full frontal. This book is personally inscribed by Michael Jackson. So, this is Boys Will Be Boys, and The Boy, a photographic essay, both of which are art books, photography books. In particular, Boys Will Be Boys is a photo book documenting the summer of a group of boys living in America in, I believe, the 60s. This is not a book of just full frontal after full frontal. There's all kinds of pictures in this book. I mean, it's them playing tag and using slingshots and climbing trees and all of this stuff. And the personal inscription is actually just written on the inside of the cover. It says, "Look at the true spirit of happiness and joy in these boys' face. This is the spirit of boyhood, a life I never had and will always dream of. This is the life I want for my children, MJ." Same thing with The Boy, a photographic essay, black and white photos of boys. In Michael's 2005 trial, it had actually been revealed that this was a gift from a fan that says, "To Michael from Rhonda." And most importantly, Michael's fingerprints were shown to have never even touched the book. This was a gift from a fan that was left in a box. Michael had never even opened it. We're speed running, okay? A photograph of a boy believed to be Jonathan Spence. I'm sorry, one, you do not know who Jonathan Spence is. He's acting like believed to be Jonathan Spence. You do not know who Jonathan Spence is. Jonathan Spence is a family friend of the Jacksons. But most importantly, this is a part of a way bigger scandal. So there was an article written that said, "Raid turned up photo of boy." Okay? This was a huge deal in the media. This is incriminating evidence. Except for the fact that this had been addressed in court. Michael Jackson defense team has learned that information is circulating throughout the media regarding alleged photographs supposedly seized from Mr. Jackson's residence. That information is false. The prosecution has confirmed that it is false. There were no photographs, no child pee anywhere as claimed by Celebrity Justice and their sources close to the investigation. This is not a list of confirmed material. This was a list of submitted evidence. Evidence that the prosecution wanted to be considered in the trial. Pretty much all of this was not considered viable evidence because it was either legal art books, which contained one or two photographs that had nudity in them, or two, they didn't have Michael's fingerprints on them. It's important to note that Michael Jackson was a serial hoarder. The investigation photos showed that his house was often left in disarray. This is a picture of his office. Michael owned over 10,000 books. Again, just a complete hoarder. And like Michael's lawyer, Thomas Mesereau, said, you could go into any house in America and find the same evidence that you found in Michael Jackson's home. You could go into millions of Americans' homes and find a copy of It. It famously has one of the most graphic scenes involving children to ever be written in a legal book. But anyone who owns It is not an abuser. And then he pulls up all of this stuff. All of this, by the way, is like legal adult pee. These are more art books that happen to have nude photographs of adults in them. Again, more examples of just adult pee. And his whole argument here is the same argument that the prosecution team took up, which is that, well, Michael is using this as grooming material. All of these magazines and DVDs that Michael owned, well, that was just grooming material. So by that logic, the grooming material that he used to give children, which only had his fingerprints on them, did not have any children's fingerprints on them. That stuff is the grooming material. But then the stuff that he actually wants, which is all of those art books and photography books, are the things that don't have his fingerprints on them. And then he says something ridiculous, which is like, And these things were found in locked filing cabinets. He's literally questioning why an adult man kept his pee locked up. And he's like, this guy's having children sleep in his bedroom and he's got this stuff in there? Yeah, locked up. This is also just more examples of the things that were found in Michael's home with his fingerprints on it, and only his. Obviously, the biggest question is always, was there any CP found? And it's like, well, no, because if any of that had been found, that is illegal in everywhere in the United States. It would have resulted in immediate imprisonment. And then this was also a very misleading one. There was a lot of things that had been put forward as homoerotic material. This homoerotic material was actually material of 2 adult consenting women. So a grown man had lesbian-themed erotica, and it was being submitted as evidence of abuse against children because it was homoerotic. And talking about all the things that were found, Michael's lawyer said, Mr. Jackson will tell you he found these kids going through his briefcase, and he grabbed these magazines and locked them in this briefcase. Mr. Jackson will freely admit he does read girly magazines, Playboy and Hustler, but absolutely denies showing them to children. There is one piece of evidence, one magazine that was found to have Gavin Arvizo's fingerprints on it. And the reason for that is very simple. While it was addressed that apparently Gavin had been found going through Michael's bedroom with his brother Star, and these magazines were one of the things that he found, let's just say that's a lie, okay? Let's hypothetically say that was a lie. Let's throw that out. Even if that were not true, the magazine that Gavin was shown on the stand, he was given a magazine and asked if this was a magazine that Michael had shown him, to which he said yes. The only problem is that Gavin's official testimony is that the last time he had been to Neverland was in February of 2003. That magazine had come out in August. They handed the kid a magazine that came out after he was apparently abused, and then tested it for fingerprints to corroborate his story. I believe Tom Sneddon should be serving time in prison. You cannot falsify evidence and then just say, oh, we lost the case. He had that boy put his hands on the magazine in front of the grand jury. And the reason we know that is because the alert, Tom Mesereau, the defense attorney, got the jury transcript. And one of the grand jurors said, shouldn't that young boy be wearing gloves? Then after the grand jury, they sent it out for fingerprints analysis. So when did the boy get his fingerprint on the magazine? When the boy testified that he hadn't even been at Neverland for months when the magazine was published, yet he claimed that was the magazine that Michael gave him in bed. Only in the Michael Jackson case is this an issue. A grown man was found with a very healthy collection. I'll just say it was a lot, to be fair. A very healthy collection of adult pee. And the allegation was that he was using that to groom children, despite the fact that all of this was found in locked cupboards, cabinets, and briefcases with only Michael's fingerprints on it. I mean, one photo showed a drawer where an issue of Barely Legal sat next to a jar of Vaseline. That is probably the most straight, hetero man thing I have ever heard, and that was being used as evidence of grooming. But then art books, photography books, paintings that Michelangelo had done were being used as evidence of an interest in children, all of which did not even have Michael's fingerprints on them. And for this guy to sit here and be like, read the transcripts, oh my god, read the transcripts. I know you didn't read the transcripts, because if you read the transcripts, you would have not only seen the judge dismiss all of this evidence and then point out things like Gavin putting his hands on the magazine, you also would have read every other lie that the Arvizos got caught in. If you actually cared about victims and survivors of abuse, you would have read those transcripts, actually read them. You didn't actually read them. It's insulting. You're a grifter. You are purposefully trying to get attention as white knighting yourself about allegations that you know nothing about. Just because a movie came out does not mean that you need to capitalize off it. Actually do your research. Actually care about these allegations, and then we can talk.
I want all those judges to come on and answer questions. I want to ask them why they didn't demand, because they're an officer of the court, that Tom Sneddon be indicted for falsifying evidence in the Michael Jackson trial. And I was a witness. I was right there in the courtroom, watched him get caught, false fingerprints evidence, the phone evidence that they tried to create to say there was a conspiracy and all these phone charges, half a day on that. Then Sneddon wanted to withdraw it from the evidence pool in the court. No. The defender, Tom Mesereau, said, that stays on. Judge said, you're right, it's already been entered, it stays. And the jury looked at all this false evidence and said, there's no way we can convict this guy. Tom Sneddon should be serving time in prison. You cannot falsify evidence and then just say, oh, we lost the case. No, no. He had that boy put his fingerprints on the magazine at the grand jury. And the reason we know that, because the alert Tom Mesereau, the defense attorney, got the grand jury transcript. And one of the grand jurors said, shouldn't that boy be wearing gloves? Then after the grand jury, they sent it out for fingerprints analysis. So where did the boy get his fingerprint on the magazine when the boy testified he hadn't even been at Neverland for months when that magazine was published? Yet he claimed that was the magazine Michael Jackson gave him in bed. And Tom Sneddon directed all that testimony.
My new series, Justice for Michael Jackson, where we talk about Michael Jackson's court cases and everything that the media left out at the time. You may already be familiar with this picture because that right there is Jordan Chandler. His father sued Michael Jackson in 1993. Interestingly enough, Evan Chandler didn't have custody of his son Jordan at the time that Jordan had become friends with Michael. Jordan's stepfather helped Michael on the side of the road when Michael's car stopped working. And that is how Jordan, his stepfather, and his mother June all came to know Michael. After not having custody of his son for about 7 years, when Evan got wind of the fact that Jordan was good friends with Michael, he wanted in on it. Evan was a dentist, but also a drug dealer to celebrities, and also an aspiring screenwriter. You can read about the sketchy drug deals that Evan did with his celebrity clientele like Carrie Fisher, who actually mentioned him in her book. Carrie talks about how Evan wanted to be associated with celebrities, so that is why he gave them certain prescriptions that they didn't need. She even makes remarks about how Evan would talk about his son in a very strange way and about his son's looks to Carrie. So when Evan is back in the picture, he immediately starts approaching Michael with different movie ideas. He presents Michael with a lot of different projects that he wants Michael to collaborate on and invest in. He eventually starts making a lot of different requests to Michael. He asks for a loan, he asks for a new car. A part of the reason he wanted all of this money was to also help pay child support that he owed June. Evan even eventually asks Michael for his own suite at the Neverland Ranch. So when Michael gets wind of all of this, he starts to ghost Evan. No more lunch dates, no more time spent with Evan. It's very clear that Evan's intentions at this point is that he wants Michael's money. That is when suddenly Evan approaches Michael and Jordan about what he believes their relationship is. Michael and Jordan adamantly deny any of Evan's allegations against them. So Evan, being the supposed concerned father, doesn't call cops, doesn't call attorneys. He actually asks Michael for $20 million, saying that he will leave all of this alone and everything will go back to normal if Michael hands over $20 million to him. Which is strange considering what you think is going on with your son and Michael. We are going to do a part 2 of this, and just for everyone's reference, my sources are MJ Historian on TikTok, Google, and court transcripts. Follow for more.
So guys, what do you think? Was he innocent? Let me know down in the comments. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And thanks again for watching.